All you're going to do is you're going to bend that knee, pushing that heel down into the floor still. So this is kind of just helping your ankle get into a position that it's not able to get into on its own.
So how does this help someone with foot drop, this particular stretch? Hi, everyone. I'm here with Amanda Anderson, and she is a doctor of physical therapy, and we're going to be talking to you today about many different things related to foot drop. I'm really excited, actually, because we're going to go more into stretches and to exercises that have to do with foot drop, and we're going to do an extended video on that. I think a lot of people are looking for answers on that. I do have to always just preface all of this by saying it's just health information. It's not medical advice. We unfortunately can't do that for everyone except for the people that we see face to face that come to our practices. Thanks so much for coming on, Amanda. I appreciate it very much. And let's get to it really quick. So foot drop is a big deal. I think it's not talked about enough in terms of fall prevention, which is crazy out of control. And I think they're tied much more, and people just don't know about it because they don't have your skill set, your knowledge, all of the hours that you have put in. So Amanda, can you talk really quickly about some foot drop exercises, as many as you think are worthwhile for people to know about? Can we name some?
Yeah. So the biggest thing with foot drop is you're unable to actively use your muscles to bring your toes up towards your shin. And so while you may have like the actual motion in your ankle, your muscles aren't doing a really great job. And so the biggest thing that I like to start people with is actually some stretches into the position that your muscles are able to get into. So that bringing your toes up towards your shin, that's dorsiflexion. And so that's usually what I have people start with is some dorsiflexion or calf stretching, just to make sure they're maintaining that motion, especially whether or not it's something that's going to be more temporary or whether it's something that is going to be more permanent and they're going to have to manage.
I think that you said there's 3 to 4 big stretches that come with foot drop.
So it really depends on what's going on. So most of the stretches that you're going to do for a foot drop type of injury or issue are going to be calf stretches. And so I have a lot of different versions of those. But in addition to that, because it's not just your ankle that's going to be affected with foot drop, right? So it's going to change the way that you walk. It's going to change the way that you are able to put weight on your foot. And so a lot of times I'll also have people working on their knee and their hip. And so just because like the problem technically is at the ankle, you're going to have problems all through the chain. And so while most of just the ankle stretches are going to be dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, you're going to be stretching the whole lower extremity chain just to make sure that you're maintaining your motion and making sure that the rest of your leg isn't getting tight when you're not walking like you should be.
So the main focus, would you say to someone, is that we're focusing on below the knee and down, or would you even go up higher to do more stretches? And
I would go up higher. Depending on the time and what they're in for and what they want to get back to, I would go all the way up as far as the hip. Now, for someone who is just dealing, if this is something that's going to be a chronic thing, we're not expecting the foot drop to completely resolve. Like maybe we just focus a little bit more below the knee, but it depends on what someone wants to get back to. If they're like a young athlete that just had a cast taken off, and let's say it was just like a compression of that peroneal nerve. So that's the nerve that causes foot drop. If it's just a compression of that area and we're expecting it to kind of get better, then yeah, I'm going to be working on their hip, knee, and ankle just to make sure they're maintaining that mobility in all of those joints while they're recovering.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds totally fair. I think if someone wants to learn about stretches, it's not just good just to do one stretch because
Absolutely.
You might be missing the boat, basically.
Absolutely. And some stretches don't work for some people. Like, so sometimes I'll teach someone a stretch and they'll be like, I don't feel this at all. Like, let's say, for instance, like their ankle is really flexible. and they just were diagnosed with some sort of foot drop, and they're like, yeah, should I be feeling this somewhere? And so then that's when we move on to another stretch. And so not all of these stretches are going to work for everybody.
Got it.
So I have lots of different options. It's stretching the same thing, but it just depends on what the position that you're getting into and how much pressure you're putting through that joint while you're doing the stretch.
Okay, so just real quick, what do you need to do your stretches? I think you were nice enough to do some other videos for us, and I saw you use some equipment. So when you're doing a stretch, what kind of things do you need?
I usually recommend, this is just a yoga strap. It's called a stretch out strap. That's a really good tool. Again, it doesn't have, this is like the brand name version. It doesn't have to be like that. It just has to be something that isn't going to be stretchy. So like a beach towel, a sheet, a belt, a dog leash, a yoga strap is all fine. A lot of times I'll have people use, like, after they get out of the hospital, they're given those gait belts. That's excellent. That's an excellent stretch strap. Or a lot of times too, I'll have people just use like some household item. It's not like something you have to go out and buy something. They have these on Amazon for the stretch out straps for like $10. They're not super expensive, and you shouldn't spend a lot on it.
And you could even potentially just go to your closet or whatever and find something that would work there. Like a belt.
You can use your belt. You're like, your dog leash. You can borrow the dog leash for a sec. Yep. All those are great as long as it's not stretching. We just don't want you using like an elastic band to get your stretch done, because you're not going to get anything out of it. The strap will stretch out and it's not actually focusing on where we need it to focus.
So it got stretched and you are losing your ability to get stretched.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So can you show us some of these stretches?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to start with the one on the floor. This one will be on the floor. And this is one that sometimes doesn't work for people, especially if they just have a lot of flexibility in their hamstrings or in their ankle or calf. So this I typically reserve for people who like are just recovering from a surgery or just kind of got diagnosed with foot drop. It's kind of like a good starting stretch, but I generally have people move away from this stretch relatively quickly.
Okay, what's the name of this one? Would you name
this
for it?
is a long sit calf stretch. And then I'm also going to teach you a sciatic nerve glide, because you can do it in the same position. So a lot of times what tends to happen is when we start walking not normally because our foot isn't working correctly, our sciatic nerve can get very angry at us. And so a lot of times it gets like, if it's not moving correctly in its like sheath, we actually have to go in and actively move it back and forth. And so that's where a strap or this stretch is actually very helpful.
Sounds great.
So
you're going to show us two different ones here.
Yep, there's going to be two right here. Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
They look awfully similar, but the first one is going to be just a long sit calf stretch. And all you're doing is you're taking the two ends of the strap, putting it around your toes, keeping your knees straight and gently pulling back on your toes. You should feel this in your calf. You should also feel this. You might feel it a little bit in the back of your knee, depending on how flexible you are, and that's okay.
So how does this help someone with foot drop, this particular stretch?
So this particular stretch is going to pull your foot into dorsiflexion, which is the motion that you tend to have trouble with when you have foot drop. You're not able to pull your toes back on your own. And so a lot of times you can get tight or stiff in that direction when you have foot drop. And so this is kind of just helping your ankle get into a position that it's not able to get into on its own.